And it's so funny as a little boy where your father's your hero and my mom kind of coming in and taking that role over of, that's the hero in this. That's the person that's been raising me. And that's the person that's been dealing with my shit, putting food on the table, working double shifts. Completely changed the dynamic and the relationship with me and my mom. Welcome, everybody, to the Lionz Den. This is episode 6. We thank everybody for tuning in, for leaving comments, for subscribing. I just want to introduce myself again. My name is Eddy.
And this is Daryl.
I'm Brad.
And this is Alex, joined again with Mr. Bill.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back, Bill.
So in the last episode, Bill kind of had a chance to go through his journey with his addiction, kind of where he ended up with it, a little bit where it started, how he made it through, which I thought was really important for people to hear. One, people that were going through it. And like I said, for especially Daryl and I, a little different perspective because both of our parents were alcoholics. Bill did kind of touch on it in the earlier part of his story about kind of when it felt normal, felt like kind of took some of the pain away and where he kind of felt like he was fitting in. For me, and it actually made me think about it a lot, when I was a kid, my dad, all I really remember is watching Bears games and, him drinking beer and me getting like sips of the beer and thinking it was like the greatest thing in the world. Never thought anything abnormal about it. Never thought that it was anything unique. And I remember my parents fighting a lot and being like, what's the deal with my mom? Like, why is she giving my old man a hard time all the time? And it never really clicked. And it's amazing. I did talk about it in the book a lot, that as you get older, how that dynamic kind of changes. You kind of start seeing both sides of it. Mm-hmm. And that stayed like that for quite a long time, kind of maybe 10, 11, where I started noticing. I even remember, because my parents were divorced, so a couple of things was kind of unique for me at that time. Divorce was still kind of strange. So parents were fighting, kind of as Bill felt a little bit of an outsider. The divorce felt like a little outsider. Then kind of what my dad's drinking felt like a little bit of an outsider. And then we moved a couple times pretty quick. So all of that just didn't really feel like I fit in. But at that time, I was with my father on the weekends, my mom on the weekdays. And my mom was the disciplinarian. I mean, she was an adult.
Right.
And weekends with my dad were like great times. I got to stay out as late as I wanted, stay up as late as I wanted, do really whatever I wanted, eat what I wanted. A lot of times he was half in the bag, so I'd be cooking macaroni and cheese 3 times a day and nobody say anything to me. And I really remember looking back on that time like, this is great. It was like vacation. And then when I would go to my mom, she was the ball buster. I'm like, and I remember, I think about it now, I talk to her being like, why don't you be more like my dad? My dad doesn't give me a hard time. You're always giving me a hard time. And I really remember thinking that. And what I find amazing about my mom is, she took those hits in the jaw and never said anything. She wasn't like, your dad's a drunk, he's not paying child support, he's not doing anything. She never said any of those type of things to me. It was more, she just kind of took it on the chin and never badmouthed him about anything. And it really wasn't until I got probably by like 11, 12, where I started noticing, okay, well, he's not working, different girlfriends, something's not right here. At that time, he definitely started becoming, a really hardcore alcoholic. I would find half pints around the house, stuff like that. Play fighting, accidentally hurt me because he was drunk, didn't know. I mean, would feel terrible about it, but just didn't have, kind of control over him. And at that time, it was a big battle always between my mom and my dad. And I obviously never told my mom anything because I knew if she knew half of what was going on, I mean, I'm cleaning up puke at night, consoling his girlfriends, really raising a father as a 12-year-old kid. And I knew if I ever told my mom, she would stop letting me see him. So I kind of kept my mouth shut about it. And with anyone who has an addict or an alcoholic parent, for my dad, you watch the money. So the idea was that, you know, if he doesn't have any money, he can't buy any booze. So anytime we'd go grocery shopping, what have you, even that, I remember the first time him using food stamps and being like, what's that? Or government cheese or any of that type of stuff. Like I never seen any of that. Because with my mom, it was literally two different lifestyles. And so I remember his girlfriend told me, you know, keep an eye on the change, what comes back. So he was at the cash register checking out, and I'm watching, and he got like $3.75 back. We get back to the house, and how much did he get back? And I was like, it was like $3.75, $4. I remember I was sitting outside on the lawn chair, just kind of minding my own business. He comes out screaming, and my dad was never a real big yeller at me. And, you know, calling me a Nazi. You know, you're a traitor, Nazi. You ratted me out. And I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? He's like, you told her how much change I got. And I remember I'd never seen my dad aggressive towards me. You know, anytime I got hurt, it was just because he was kind of drunk and get a little too physical because he doesn't really realize what he's doing. And he spit on me. You know, he was like, you're a traitor, too. And at that time, I was in martial arts. So I thought I was Karate Kid. So I remember I kicked him in the crotch.
Solid.
Yes,
Solid.
as hard as I possibly could.
Solid.
He bent over. I mean, he was in major pain. And we used to go like stargazing on the roof there. So there was always a ladder there. So, and it was just about dusk. And so I ran around, ran up on the roof, pulled the ladder up so nobody knew that was up there. And then it was like 45 minutes, you know, noticing I wasn't coming back in the house, started panicking. And once I knew they were a little ways, I was like, I'll never forget looking at the phone on the wall and being like, if I call my mom, this is over. You know, I'm not going to see my dad anymore on the weekends. And I remember being like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, spit in my face, screw this. So I called my mom, and I'll never forget, I was like, Mom, you have to pick me up. And it was like that Town movie.
Yep.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
That's how my mom was. It wasn't a lot of questions.
Yep.
It wasn't a lot of what's going on. It was like, I'll be right there. It was no more than maybe 20, whatever the quickest was she got there, maybe 20, 25 minutes. She came, got me, you know, Eddy, go in the car, MF'd my father to no end. And by that time, he knew what was going on. He knew my mom was coming, whatever, sobered him up. He's crying, apologizing. I'm so sorry. And I remember, I was probably about 15 at that time, feeling sorry for him because like I knew he didn't mean it, but also feeling like, well, screw you. You know, it's not my fault you're drunk.
Right.
Why do I got to deal with this shit? And I remember feeling that conflict. And it's so funny as a little boy where your father's your hero and my mom kind of coming in and taking that role over of, you know, that's the hero in this. That's the person that's been raising me. And that's the person that's been dealing with my shit, putting food on the table, working double shifts. Completely changed the dynamic and the relationship with me and my mom. And I mean, we were close even then, but just looked at her in a much different way and completely changed the dynamic with my father. But I mean, as far as addiction goes, for me, that's why it was so important to kind of bring Bill in.
Right.
It took me a real long time to kind of deal with the concept that my family was a very loving family. My mother would do anything and everything for me. I had a grandmother who was like a second mom. A godmother was like a third mom. And I really felt like love conquered all. So, and I also felt for me, I had faith. So if I prayed enough, if I begged God enough, if I asked enough, I mean, that was my Christmas present. That was my Easter present. Please just let my dad stop drinking. And it never happened. And then it was also, you know, if my dad loves me, he should stop drinking. You know, why are you doing this? Why can you not stop? And I would see people, because by that time I started getting involved in Al-Anon, started going to some AA meetings, and I was like, all right, I know this could be done, so why isn't he doing it? And that's, like I said, that's why I have so much admiration for Bill, because he did it. And I know how hard it is.
Right.
And for him, because I know he was talking about his kids, you know, in the last episode, that as a kid, you don't understand that. You know, you don't comprehend what addiction is. You don't comprehend what that really means and what that looks like. And as you get older, things start computing a little bit more. But for me, that was something that was eye-opening. It got to a point where it was bad enough that I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And my father and I still saw each other, much less. And there was waves of it. We'd get really close. There were times where, you know, I'm going to stop. You know, I'm going to get it together. We'd work out like Bill's doing now. Like he would have those waves where I'm sure Bill found, where he found that sobriety, but it wasn't long lived. And it just got to a point where I couldn't be around him anymore. And in fact, one of the last times I saw him, you know, where he was at, he would always kind of walk up and down the streets and ask for money. Because by that time, he wasn't really getting any. And I was about to see him. I don't think I'd seen him maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And, hey, Dad. And he was asking me for money. And I'm like, I'm not giving you any money. I know what you're going to do with it. Well, if you don't ask me, then, I mean, if you don't give it to me, then I'm just going to go ask for it on the street. Which essentially he's telling me he's going to beg for it. And I'm like, you know what? You do what you got to do. I'm out of here. And I just really remember thinking, he's going to die like this. And didn't talk to him for a couple years, talked to him again a little bit later, very briefly. And I remember I got a call and, you know, hey, is your father such and such? Yes, it is. You know, we have him here at the morgue. And, you know, are you his son? Yes. So I went down there and I'll never forget the morgue. It was like a slab, metal slab. And what I remember the most is it was like a jewel bag of his shit. And I was like, a lifetime, you know, by this time, however old he was, the only person that was there was me. All his shit is in a jewel bag.
Regular bag.
And this is the life you lived. And I also remember so bad wanting to just forgive him, just let it go. You know, I was like, Eddie's dead. Whatever he's gone to, he's gone to. Let it go. You know, let him die. Rest in peace. Just let go of all of that ill will towards him. And in fact, it was, I don't know if she was a nurse or somebody who worked there, because I was anointing him with oil. And she felt so bad, so I was by myself. And she's like, would you like me to pray with you? And I did. And I was like, yeah, please. And I remember standing over his head praying and, you know, Eddie, think of a good thought. You know, give him that. Think of, I couldn't come up with shit. You know, not a damn thing. And it wasn't so much resentment at that time, but kind of to Bill's point in the last episode with his parents, you know, you have that innocent time with your parent where you remember him as that hero. And for him, he just went way beyond that, you know, where, you know, it was 15, 20 years when I could remember him being anything of anything, any type of father in any way. And with my mom, it was always difficult because, you know, when they got divorced, he was still somewhat had it together and she was aware. It's not like she wasn't naive to his illness, but she didn't realize how bad it got. And I remember calling my mom and saying, you know, Ma, I was above his head and I couldn't think of shit. And you know, my mom, of course, remember this. He was a good father when you were a kid, Eddie, and, you know, all this. And I was like, I don't remember it. And for me, I felt like, okay, you were good for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it may be. You were shit for the next 15, 20. Those 3, 4 years don't make amends for that. Made me violent, made me angry, really messed me up with love because I didn't trust people. It was always like, are you being honest with me? Because as Bill knows, and we'll have him talk about later, with addiction, you're a king manipulator. So you're always full of it because you're trying to find that next thing. And you'll say whatever you got to say.
Do what you got to do, yeah.
Do whatever you got to do. So growing up, it always made me like, is this person full of shit? Are they trying to con me? Because you become really astute at picking up when people are bullshitting.
In your book, there's a little snippet. I sent it to you because it's very profound. You said, what makes you think that somebody that lies constantly isn't lying to you? There's something of that gist, and it was kind of like one of those eye-opening. I was like, oh yeah, because I'm sure all of us know a chronic liar. Somebody that stretches the truth, and you're like, oh yeah, okay. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a desire to believe that person is coming from somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's really is with love, and especially with Lionz Den, we're talking about faith, we're talking about our spirituality, all that. With love, it's not too hard to bullshit somebody that loves you. I mean, because they want to believe you, they want to trust you. And I think that was the hurtful part of it, was like I trusted them. I've had confidence in them, and we're talking like daily Tony Robbins, Dad, you could do it, and let's go work out, let's go to Hooters, let's go there. And it never materialized. But after telling my mom that, maybe 2, 3 days passed, and I think we had gotten his belongings and stuff, my mom got a book done of all the old pictures of like my dad taking me on a sled and all that. And it did certainly make me remember stuff, but more than anything, I walked away from it feeling like I might have got shorted with a father, but I came up aces with my mom and, with my family, that I couldn't have been more blessed in that way. And it was really, a peaceful awakening for me that, not everybody gets everything. And sometimes your blessings are stronger in one area than in other areas, but it took me a long time to adjust to that, because I always felt like, well, this guy's got a mother and father, and this guy's father isn't a drunk. Why is mine, type of thing? Kind of like what Bill was talking about in the last episode. So for me, that was really profound. I know for you, Daryl, definitely different, but
different, but a lot of similarities to some of the stuff you just said too. Yeah, my dad, he struggled with alcoholism for a long time. I actually think for the most part, I'm the oldest of, at that time, 4. I'm the oldest of 6, but from my mother and father, I'm the oldest of 4. And then I have 2 younger sisters from my mom's second marriage. But from my mom's marriage to my dad, I probably have the most memories of my dad during that time when he was really dealing with alcoholism. And he did a good job for the most part of keeping it away from us. But it's little things from when I was like in preschool and kindergarten where I remember things. But it was funny it's funny to me because it jogged a memory when you said that you and him got into it and you had to defend yourself, kick him, create a boundary.
in the nuts.
In the nuts. I support everything about it. I'm a person that I think respect comes first. So, but I actually got into it and physically with my dad in my teenage days. I don't know if I've told you this before, and but it was of a similar situation to where, thinking back on it, I'm like 100% sure. Actually, I knew then too that my dad was off the sauce at this particular time. So when I was a teen, I'm the oldest, so I could go. I grew up in Detroit in the city, and we were out of school for the summer. And I would literally get up in the morning and I would be gone until the streetlights came on. And so this was one of those summer days where I've been going since like 9 a.m. And I had an aunt who lived about 4 blocks away from me. And she had a basketball rim in her backyard. So me and some of my guys would meet at my aunt's house and just play basketball in her backyard. And I was playing over there, and my brother and my two sisters, they did what they did. They had a more restrictive childhood than me. Like, I would be all over the neighborhoods, and they could go to the neighbor's house.
Right.
You know? And so I left early in the morning. I ended up at my aunt's house playing basketball with some friends. My dad had his own business, so his schedule was fluid to whatever he needed to do. He had an upholstery business. And I remember playing basketball behind my Aunt Charlotte's house, called her Coco. And I saw my dad's work van pull up. Didn't make me any, never mind, you know. He stopped over there often because we lived in the same neighborhood. And I came out from the back to say hi to him. And when he came up to me, he asked me, he said, why'd you take your brother and sister's bikes out? All three of their bikes were out. And I guess he had put them on punishment for something. I don't know. I was unaware because my everyday schedule was get up and go meet with my friends and do whatever I do until the streetlights come on. And then, so I'm like, I didn't take their bikes outside. You know, he was like, no, you had to. There's no way they got those bikes outside. And that's the sauce talking. For him, he couldn't formulate that 3 able-bodied children could figure out a way to get 3 bikes up some basement stairs. So being completely honest and sincere, I'm like, no, I didn't do it. You know, and I don't have anything else to say. There's no other explanation besides I didn't know they were on punishment and I didn't do it.
Right.
And his mind was made up. He was like, yeah, no, you're lying. You took their bikes out and you knew they were on punishment. So we had like this moment of silence, just staring at each other. And in my head, I'm like, something's not connecting up there. And he reached and grabbed my shoulder, and natural reflex was a 3-piece. So, and it was like out of body experience. My dad reached and grabbed me with force and caught 3 unexpected shots to the face because he wasn't expecting it, and neither was I. And no blocking or anything. So I connected 3 clean shots. And then on the 4th and 5th one, he started blocking. And that's what I'm like, oh shit, I'm punching my dad. And then the way I am, I'm like, damn, this is wrong. But I'm already there, so I continued because you can't unpunch people. So you just keep going with it. At least I did. And he was catching a lot of them, and to the point where he couldn't stop me, so he grabbed me. He grabbed both of my wrists, and he let it go, and he punched me one time. Now, everybody in my family and most of the people on the west side of Detroit knows that you don't mess with my aunt. She may be 5 feet tall, and she is Fury. So my dad knew that she was Fury. So she's coming out the house with a butcher knife. And it's already locked. And she's not a threatened person. If she does this, it's coming down.
It's happening.
You're getting, and my dad, I saw it on his face. He knew, like, oh shit, fucking Coco. And he comes, he lets me go, he gets in the car. And then she brings me in the house. I'm fine. She calls my mom. My mom leaves work, drives beelines over from work to my aunt's house. And, was looking at me, asking what happened. And I told her, the story. And I feel bad because I'm like, actually, I hit him first repeatedly several times. And my mom's like, nope, it's no excuse. He shouldn't hit you at all. And I'm like, yes, So I had that little bit of remorse starting out. I didn't really think about it. Like, my dad was drunk. That's why when I look back on it, I remember his face and I remember who he was with. He was with one of his employees, this guy named Gary, who I've never seen sober. Like, never. He worked for my dad, and he was always sauce. He had the glassy red eyes, like all the time. And not a bad dude, just a drunk. And so Gary was in the van when me and my dad got into it. So me and my mom talked, and she wants to go do a police report and stuff. And we talked. We drove up there, but we didn't do a police report. And then we went back home, and that's when the remorse really started getting to me. I felt bad, like, man, that's horrible. You're not supposed to fight your father. You shouldn't hit your dad like that. And my dad, the second like incident comes up, he comes home, and I think it's starting to get at him that I got the best of him. Mm-hmm. So we're sitting up in their bedroom, and I'm on my edge of my mom's bed, and I'm feeling bad. I just got finished telling her that I felt bad. And he comes upstairs ready for round 2. He's like, oh, you want to punch me? Let's go. And for me, I only can respond the way I receive things. So if you come at me humble, I'm very humble. If you come at me with aggression, I can only, and I've been like that since I was little, I can only respond with aggression. So I immediately go from feeling remorse to fuck it, let's go. And I grabbed his vase and I was about to break it over my dad's head. And I think my mom knows me well enough to stand in between me. So she stands in between me and my dad, because I don't think my dad would have did anything first. But like once my mind's made up, it's over.
Yep.
So it was vase time, and my mom stands in front of me, and I'm like, fuck, I can't get this around her. I really wanted to though. Like I was like, I can't hook it though. So, she grabs my dad, she pushes him back down the stairs and out of there. And I'm just like, how can I hit him with this vase when he gets outside? I don't know why I was so fixated on like crashing his glass over his head. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm a very violent person, y'all. But we go through it, and then we kind of balance out. We come back in the house. My mom comes back in the house, and then my dad leaves. She makes him leave. And she asks me, am I okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I settle back down. And we ended up going to get my brothers and sisters, and we went to the movies or got ice cream or something like that. It was just me and my mom for like a few hours. Then when we got my brother and sisters, we just continued on like normal. And me and my dad made up from that like months later and stuff like that. Had like a very, very short discussion. I said I was sorry. He said he was sorry. But I think we did have a mutual respect, because we saw, he knew who he was, but I think that was his first time seeing me as not like the little kid that I used to be. Yeah. Even though I was still a teenager. Right. It was just somebody who, the way that I meet with stuff. But we moved on. I'm happy that my dad passed when I was younger. He actually passed like a year and a half after that. Oh, and so we had a short period of time to kind of make up and stuff. We do have a lot of great memories. So my dad was at every football practice and every football game that I ever had. All of because he worked his own business. He did upholstery, so he could take me to school. I went to a performing arts middle school that was not in my neighborhood. My brother and sisters went to school right in the neighborhood, and they had to take me 20-something miles away to go to this school so I can be in jazz band and marching band and all this other stuff. Yeah. And it was my dad who would take me every day, drop the 3 local kids off, and then drive me to Timbuktu so I can go to my special school, and then pick me up and then take me to practice. And so I give him a lot of credit for tolerating a lot of my like scheduling bullshit, because I was telling Eddy the other day when we were at the gym that my mom mentioned that I used to just enroll myself in shit without my parents' consent at all. I just used to come home and be like, hey, Thursday I have practice here, and then I have this over here. And, they would take me to it, but I never was like, they would hand out something like, hey, we got tryouts for this. And I just would be like, I'm in. I wouldn't be like, I got to talk to my mom. I got to talk to my dad. I just join shit all the time. So I give him credit because he literally used to take me to all this stuff. Yeah. When like me, I'd be like, bro, like, am I a cab driver? Like, Right. He never did that. He was always good with keeping up with me in my extracurricular activities and all my school and stuff, So I felt bad for that, but we did have a really good relationship. But to point out on my dad's alcoholism, me and my brother and sisters learned 2 years ago, 37 now, so it was at 35, why my dad drank. So so my dad comes from a really big family. It was 9 of them. So it was 7 boys and 2 girls, right? So I got a lot of uncles and 2 aunts on that side of my family. But one of my dad's brothers, his closest brother to his age, he is actually murdered before, I can't even quote the year. It's either when I was a baby just born or right before I was born. And so I knew that my entire life. But what I didn't know until a few years ago was that my dad was with him when he was born, and he was actually shot. They were at a party together, and my dad was with him when his brother got shot. And that was the dawn of his drinking was a coping mechanism for witnessing the loss of his brother. And my family comes from I think a lot of us can relate to that, where they just don't talk about shit like that.
No, for sure.
So randomly, one of my aunts was talking on my mom's side, who was really close with my dad, about like, I remember when I first met your dad. He was such a nice man, and then after Michael passed, he couldn't let go of the bottle. And I was like, oh yeah, losing his brother. She's like, yeah, he was there, and he had to wait, and the ambulance came. And me and one of my sisters was kind of like, what the fuck? Like, we're old as fuck, and we're learning this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it'd been nice to know at some point before 35, that's why he, why he was drinking, or that he bared witness to it.
Yeah.
Because then it would come with a little bit more understanding of why he was the way he was. Similar to what you said about what you learned about your mom, Bill. You start to get that understanding, and it's later. And it doesn't make things that you experience right or, better, but it makes you understand why somebody was the way they were or are the way they are, So it was something that I appreciated, and it just came later,
No, and I'll definitely, when Bill was talking about that in the last episode, you think about all those different things. You saw it with his mother's behavior came from somewhere, father, same for mine, same for yours, same for everybody at this table, and really same for everybody out there. And it's really hard to, acknowledge that. I mean, I can even kind of see as we're all talking, for Bill, I'm sure there's somewhat uncomfortableness because I remember that, I was father with my kids. Mm-hmm. And same goes for him. You got to have that forgiveness to understand that made some mistakes. None of us are perfect. Everybody out there has made mistakes. Not any of us are being sainted tomorrow. But what I noticed, especially with my dad, is when you don't forgive yourself, and I think that's what I admire so much about Bill, is he had that hit and somehow was able to, because I'm sure, and we'll have him talk in a little bit, but I'm sure there was regret. I'm sure there was, and even now we kind of talk about it. He'll mention 10 years ago, 15 years ago, he knows he lost some time, but still finds a way to acknowledge, okay, I lost some time, but I'm still here and I still have time and I still want to grow and I still want to learn. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better friend. And takes a lot to do that.
For sure.
I know for you, Brad, you went through a little spell.
I did. I'd gotten divorced, and was kind of trying to find my way, I guess is the best way to put it. I had a group of people I was hanging out with. Drinking was a big part of what we did. I don't really think I had an issue with alcohol. I did a lot in the brewery industry, somewhat recently. Many years ago, my family owned a bar. So I kind of got like a firsthand look at alcoholics and, guys coming to the bar shaking and, really just needing, that fix. I also learned a lot. I was really young when we had the bar. So I saw a lot of like the Jekyll and Hyde kind of people, where they kind of act one way and then 3-4 beers later, they'd be, and who knows what else, they'd be a completely different person. So, but anyway, when I was going through stuff, we'd go out and we'd drink a lot. It was kind of our thing. And it was double fisting beers, drinking buckets and buckets of beers. And in all reality, I'm a bigger guy. So it was like, oh yeah, I could handle it. Thought I could handle my booze, and to some degree I could, but you realize it really alters you and you end up doing things you shouldn't. I get on my bike and ride home, I'm like, I'm fine. And really looking back on it, there were many, many times I shouldn't have,
Sure.
done any of that. Mm-hmm. More importantly, I'm trying to figure these things out about myself. I knew, kind of almost like what Bill said, like, internally things weren't jiving, and you're trying to kind of use this as a coping mechanism. We're out and we're having fun and it's a good time. We're laughing and joking and dancing and doing all this stuff. But then no matter what, at the end of the night, I was still going home by myself, putting my head on the pillow, and all that stuff I was trying to escape from was still there. It would still show up. You'd still have to cope with it and think about it. And, alcohol and drinking would maybe give you this false window, but it would almost make things worse. And then the next day you'd feel like garbage, and it just, for me, I kind of had to step away from doing that, from going out so much, from being really getting that drunk, for lack of a better term. To the point now where my life is drastically different. I'm in a much better headspace. I don't drink anymore. It just, not that long ago, like had a couple beers, felt like garbage the next day. And for me, I was like, what's the point of this? I don't see value in it. I just don't. So I just kind of stopped. Now I drink kitty cocktails, and I think it's funny.
So good.
Yeah, delicious, though.
It is.
Funny yet delicious.
It's great.
So, I mean, I remember those, because especially for me, having an alcoholic father, I'm extremely sensitive to people drinking around me. And, if somebody's got a problem, I have no problem letting them know my opinion on it. And with Brad, it was, because, when he says double fisting, he's not kidding. It was literally like, and buckets on buckets and buckets and hundreds of dollars. Oh, yeah.
That the money was the other thing.
Yes.
Oh
But was completely functional. Like, would show up to work the next day, like nothing ever happened, was completely fine, and never got to a point where, I definitely wouldn't consider it alcoholism or anything like that. I think it was definitely an escape at that time.
Yeah.
But kind of to his point, he was just kind of going through a divorce, and there was particular friends he was hanging out with, and there'd be like a pretty girl, like, dancing by him, and he's like dance with the guy, because it was just, that's what they were doing. They were drinking. And I'm like, Brad, the cute girl, cute, turn around. But you could just see like that was where his vision, like he just wanted that escape, where completely oblivious to everything that was going around. And I'll say for him, once that kind of hit home, it was over as quickly as it came. I mean, he was able to snap that pretty quick.
I'm only laughing when he talks about that, not because of what you were going through. I'm laughing because so you talked about the angel and the devil on your shoulder. I talked about it in a previous episode. I can only imagine being in a bar with Eddy while drinking, especially while being single and being reminded every 5 minutes, hey, pretty girl. I can see it in my head.
And it wasn't one. It was second one. It was like, Bill. Right. And she'd be like, yo, could you get me a beer? Yeah. He'd give her the beer and like not even pay attention. And, talking to his buddy, I'm like, that's why you wanted to come out. Like that's the girl. And but it was just where the mindset was.
Yeah. You weren't in that.
And I remember vividly. We talk every day. Like, I can't meet anybody. I don't know what's wrong.
So literally, you can't meet anybody when you're
the guy that doesn't drink. I'm like, come hang out with us. And I remember, I think it was at New Year's, and I had two things of champagne in my hand, and a pretty girl comes up and is like, hey, where'd you get that? And I just go, the bar. And like turned, to go the other way. And like I from the corner of the room, I just see him glare. It's like, what the fuck, And the next day, I heard about it. The next day.
Oh wow! I'm sure you heard about it that night.
Yeah, continuously. Yeah. So.
And kind of to the point, and addiction is a lot of different things. I know Bill talked about, a couple different addictions for him, and. I think I have an addiction to buying stuff. I know that's kind of where Brad's at now. We all have our different stuff, but I think it's always finding that escape, that kind of thing away from reality. And I also think it gets real easy to judge other people. So, I buy a lot of stuff, but, I'm not doing cocaine. So my addiction's much different. And really, they're all detrimental. Now, of course, there are different sizes of that. But there's always somebody getting hurt. There's always somebody. There's always ramifications to our actions. And I really, and what meant so much to me in the years of talking to Bill, because again, kind of seeing that other side, I took it so personal with my old man.
Right.
Like get your shit together. You're a grown ass man. You're my father. Be a dad. And through talking to Bill, I kind of see that side of, I don't really think that's what it was ever about. I think just kind of like in Brad's story, there just that's the mindset was escape, and it wasn't like screw my kid, I'm gonna go have a beer. And I know that wasn't it for Bill, but it definitely felt that way at the time.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually kind of want to touch on that. I've been thinking about it since you guys have been talking. I think it's important to remember too. So, like, the stuff you found out about your dad. Before somebody was a father, they were somebody's brother, they were somebody's friend, somebody's husband, their wife, whatever the case may be. And the point that I'm making is before your children, there was a life that you had. And, I touched on this on episode 1 that, you're put here on this earth to find your happiness, your true north, because you can't really give that to other people until you find it for yourself. And I think it's like a weird place for me now because I have a daughter. And as I'm going through it, I kind of look at it like, well, there's things that I would be doing if I didn't have a child, right? There'd be things that I would be needing to do. Like I come home from a stressful day for work and I'd go do this or that. And when you have a child, it becomes they need to come first. And that's really hard to transition for people as it is without an addiction. And then when you throw something in that you're so used to doing, whether it be alcohol, cocaine, whatever the case is, it's really hard to not because you don't love your children, not because you don't have a strong love for them, but because it's so hard to get out of the habit of yourself, like I said, without having an addiction, to be able to do the things you need to do to stay grounded. We've talked in previous episodes about camping, hunting, fishing, whatever the case is, to keep you grounded. And I think we forget that, your parents are people too, and we look at them like they're superstars because, that's your parents. For you, it was my dad. It was like vacation time. And I don't think we take a step back until we're older, because I don't think we're capable of taking a step back until we're older and looking back and realizing, your father was human. He went through a traumatic experience of seeing his brother murdered and probably didn't have an outlet to cope with it and transitioned to drinking and had kids. You were either just about to be born or were already born. And I don't think he ever had that opportunity to find his true peace before able to move on, and it's remembering that we're all people. Bill, I've known you for 4 years. You're an incredible guy. An absolutely incredible guy that I've seen, even in the 4 years we've known each other, go from a certain person to a completely different person now, and there's not a doubt in my mind that the love for your kids were always there. It was just, there was things that you as a person, you as a man had to come to peace with before you could be there for somebody else. Because if you can't be there for yourself, how can you be expected to be there for somebody else? And I look at that a lot now as a father, because I'll come home from a stressful day at work and I need some alone time, whatever that looks like. I got to go for a drive. I got to sit down, play some games with my friends. And then I remember, well, my daughter needs me, and not needs me. She wants me. She wants me to play. She wants me to lay on my back and play airplane with her, and it's stuff like that as I'm looking through it and kind of reflecting on it, when my daughter's 16, what's her perspective going to be? What's her perception of what kind of father was I, and am I in a mental space where I can be who I am and be grounded and still be a father to my daughter, So
now I know for you, Bill, something you've been kind of talking about a lot more recently was you kind of feel like once addiction kicks in, your evolution kind of stops. You stop learning. You're kind of stunted wherever you're at. Elaborate a little bit on that for people.
We talked about that the other day. I believe that like you talk about me, when my addiction started, I stopped growing as a human being. And when I got sober, I was at the age of what I was when I started using. I mean, I never grew up. And as you guys were talking, I was sitting there and I'm thinking, what did my mother and father ever teach me? Did they ever teach me anything? And they never taught me anything. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I never learned anything from them. And I'm going, okay, so what am I doing with my kids now? I was just thinking, when I got custody of my daughter when she was 13, 14 years old. And I seen her, and she had a long sleeve shirt on. And I saw a cut mark on her arm. I said, raise your shirt. So she raised her shirt, and she's got like razor blade marks all over her arms. Her mother never even knew it. This is when I first got custody of her. So I was a weekend dad, right? So my daughter's self-mutilating. I'm like, okay, well, we can work this out. So ever since I got my daughter until recently, I've tried to help my daughter. Then my son develops a problem, and I have to put him in a hospital. So my life has always been take care of my mother, take care of my daughter, take care of my son. And, I never really had a chance to sit down and try to figure all this stuff out. And then all of a sudden now at this age, why I like to listen to you guys when you guys started this, you talked about faith. If I don't have any faith or believe in anything, I'm not going to make it, man. There's no way that I can get up the next morning not thinking that I'm going to make this. It's because that's become part of my life, and I'm kind of like, I'm agnostic, and then I believe, and then I'm back to agnostic. But the agnostic's starting to get smaller and smaller, and I'm starting to say, you know what? Let's say I die, and I'm in the ground, and nothing happens, man. I mean, that's it. The lights are off, nothing. But the journey of practicing what spirituality says and doing that self-inventory and trying to better your life, the alcohol couldn't do that for me. Nothing could change me except trying to live that way. And what the hell's the difference? I'm going to do it anyway. I like what it's doing, and then I'll find out what happens when the lights go off,
Right.
I mean, like, who knows?
You get the answer
nobody really knows,
Right.
You really got nothing to lose. I mean,
You have nothing to lose.
Right.
Nothing to lose. And the flip side is my son now is really religious. He's got his life act together. I learned more from him in the last 3 years than anybody's ever taught me in my whole life. I watch him, and I see the things that he does and the things that he says, and I got to tell him he's smarter than I am. Like he's like my father almost. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just this whole religion or spirituality or all this kind of stuff. Mine is I just I faked it till I made it. I start reading stuff about it now. I get a little daily meditation book, which I'm not disciplined enough. I don't read it every day. I might read it twice a week, maybe once a week. And I talked to my son about it the other day. And he goes, Dad, that's what discipline is. My son teaching me about discipline. Yeah? He goes, you need to be more disciplined. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you just got to read it every day at a certain time. Read that book. I said, okay, so I'll start reading it again, And as far as that goes, I got a couple grandkids now, and they're 14 and 5, and I get to see them next month. And I'm in a good place. I'm in a really good place. I do live alone, and I don't really kind of like it because, truthfully, sometimes I'm not in good company when I'm by myself. Mm-hmm. So that's why we go to the health club. And I just want to say something about Eddy's dad and Daryl's dad and stuff like that. It's kind of like, when you're in a situation like that, you never know what the real reasons are why somebody does what they do. Mm. And the typical answer for people these days is to make fun of him or put him down or say he's no good, he's a bum and stuff like that. But when you decide to go on a self-fulfilling or self-knowledgeable path about getting better and feeling more comfortable, you see where they came from. I got rid of that, that hatred for my mother, and I forgave her, and I felt 100 times better. I knew she didn't have a shot at it. There's no way in hell she was going to be able to raise me. There's no way. I have no ill will for my mother at all. My father, he was a little bit different story. He passed away not that long ago, about 4 years ago. I think you were working there when I think he died.
Yeah,
he still was there.
And he was still he did the same thing he did up to the day he died, and I need to forgive him too. So that's the next thing that I'm going to be working on, thinking about my dad, where he came from, and move on with that. And it only makes my life better. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
So I really appreciate being here today. This was a pretty eye-opening experience for me. It gets me to, if I don't keep doing this or keep talking to somebody about this, I'll forget about it, and it's so easy to slip back into the other mm-hmm. way. If you continue to talk about it, or we go to the gym and we work out and stuff, and keep doing that positive stuff, it keeps rolling. It's like a snowball, man. You go down the hill and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know. I just
that's a point to what your son Billy told you, to get that discipline. Mm-hmm. Specifically with reading the book. Yeah. What's it? Daily what?
It's a daily meditation book.
So like with the discipline for that, I look at that. You're disciplined, Bill. You go to the gym almost every day, right?
Yeah,
You do that because you like the results and you like the way that it makes you feel. So if you look at reading a daily meditation book like that, it's going to be the same thing.
The difference with going to the gym when I was 30 years old and the difference going now that I'm in my 60s is 30 was ego-driven.
Mm-hmm.
It was work.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I got to go to look good for people.
Yeah.
Everything was about what everybody else thought.
And now you get the senior citizen discount for the membership.
Yes.
So
And I got the young guy killing me. But the difference now is when I go there, and Eddie makes fun of me because I got the music in, I got the earphones on.
yeah,
I like going.
You love
you
it.
definitely
I like to go. It's fun. I make it a fun experience now. But when I was 30 years old, man, it was like, no, I had to go over just to, I needed to do all, like you, do all the weight and, be the big guy and wear this cutoff shirts and all that ego-driven shit. Now
I was just hot.
It's called you ego.
Yeah, he did.
he had a cutoff shirt the other day. You should have seen it. Sticking way out. But no, I mean, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't care about that. And it's not. It's. Eddie keeps saying, "Oh, Bill did it." Bill did. I'm proud of Bill, and I'm proud of what Bill did and stuff. And I'm going, Eddie, man, I don't know if I did it or not. I feel like somebody moved me to do this, and it's I believe it was God that did this. It's because there's no way in hell I couldn't do it on my own. It wasn't until I asked for help that it started changing slowly. I mean, it was like minuscule, man. But it's not me. I can't. I don't believe that.
And that was one of the things I remember first talking to Bill, and kind of him going over how long he's been sober and all. And that was one of the first things he said to me. And what I know is you go to any AA meeting, you can go to any Al-Anon meeting, you can go to any sobriety program. God loves all of them. It's not like God loved you any more than he loved anybody else. God loves you all. It's always great to show that respect and show that humility. But at the end of the day, you are the one to make that decision, for you to accept that love, for you to accept that grace, for you to accept that that hand that's being stretched out to you, because it's there for all of us.
So when you go into a hospital, and I had no religious experience, I didn't want no part of it. And when you go into the treatment center, and I believe it's the same today, and I believe the addiction is still going strong out there today, just like it was back 33 years ago for me. They mention the word higher power, and then they get into talking to God. And that's the recovery process that I got involved in. It was introduced to me. And I go, are you serious? Am I gonna become religious now when I went into this thing? I mean, the guy in the right, man, you don't want to do this. And the other guy's going, give it a shot. And I'm telling you, I mean, how many years now? 33 years, and they started having some success with sobriety in like the 20s and 30s. So before that, they'd commit you. They would put you in an insane asylum, and they would lock you up. You were just a habitual drunk, and there's nothing they could do about it. They had no way of curing you. And then all of a sudden, a couple guys met. One guy started talking to another guy. He started mentioning some stuff out of the Bible, which is what the program that I go to actually is what came from. And they started mentioning God, man. And then all of a sudden, you start seeing these miracles. And we all know a lot of people that come into where we work who are like I am, and that I know, and have a long-term sobriety like I have, and I'm telling you, they use that God word, man, and it scared the shit out of me the first time I heard it. But it's like all of a sudden, I said, man, I don't care who knows that I'm using it. I don't need to prove nothing to anybody, but I'm going to try it, because it's better in my life.
Definitely.
good, solid.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody kind of want to add to the conversation?
I mean, no, I got a lot of my stuff out today, and I was, very grateful to hear from Bill again, and dig into some of your experiences so that, can open up my mind, and then as well as the people that listen to what we have to say. So thanks again, Bill. Thanks to everybody too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm so grateful for Bill to be here. It's a healing for me, gives me hope. I love to see. And again, it's not just the quitting or the sobriety. It's the continuing to evolve beyond just being sober. We're still always growing, still always learning. lost, how much weight did you lose over last year?
About 50 pounds now, yeah.
Yeah, 50 some pounds. He's at the gym more than I am, maybe even more than Daryl.
Yeah, more than both of us.
And just really has a lust for life. And that says to get beat down like that, to have a history of you're an addict for how long, Bill?
I first tried getting sober at 27. I finally got it at 30.
So, I mean, to be an addict that long, to come out of it, and I've talked to thousands and thousands of people in my lifetime. I heard some grimy stories. I mean, Bill had about as tough as I've heard as far as past family, where you're just like, whoa, you've been through some stuff. So, I mean, to be able to make it through all that, come up, still see that the sun's shining, still have faith, still be willing to, hey, I don't really know what this God thing is, but I'm willing to check it out. Is heroic to me. So when we first started talking about Lionz Den, we kind of talked pretty quickly that, man, we really like to have Bill come down, relatively early and have these conversations, and can't wait to have him back. But thank you so much, Bill, for coming in.
Yeah, and if anybody that, people that watch this, and if, most people that have these issues don't tell anybody.
Yes.
And it's a hidden thing, and it's a sign of weakness they feel, and I got to do it on my own, and I'm not going to do it today. And then a couple of days later, you're back at the bar going, how the hell did I get here? Why am I here? Just know that, man. There's definitely hope out there. It's not an easy path. You got to suck it up, and you got to do what other people tell you, because I didn't know what to do, and I had to listen to other people, whether I liked it or not, and I did it. I don't know why I did it. I just wanted it. I mean, I really wanted it. Maybe that's why I'm here. I just wanted it. I wanted peace of mind when I was 10 years old, but I didn't know how to get it then. And I wasn't capable at that age to get that peace of mind at 10 years old. I didn't know where to go at that point. But, now the people told me what to do, and, I'm here. And, whatever it means, I don't look for pats on the back. I'm pretty humble about it. It's nothing I did it's spectacular. It just happened, and I hope people listen to this and get a lot out of this, because it's important what people go through and how they get out of it. Yeah, that's all.
Really. And people are more than welcome. Leave comments. If you're not welcome, if you're not comfortable leaving the comments, completely understand. You can definitely shoot the email to Lionz Den. Yes. It'll be in the comments. If you're looking for any referrals or any questions,
we get phone numbers out to people who to call and stuff.
We could definitely get you phone numbers. So, again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you so much, Bill, for being honest with everything. Open yourself up with it. Thank you everybody else for sharing your stories, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, next week, another experience.
No problem.